Update. Should I leave my boyfriend after he gave me a dish with shrimp, even though I'm allergic, and left me alone in the hospital? Original post. Hi everyone. I need some advice because I'm going through a situation that's overwhelming me. I'm 24 years old. I've been in a relationship for 3 years. I've lived with my boyfriend for a year, and for the past few weeks, it's been a bit of fight after fight, especially since I started a night job, a job I studied for 6 years, and he always knew I would do this job. He doesn't like it because we see each other less, and I sleep during the day while he's working. But that's not even the point. I'm allergic to seafood. The other night, we were invited to a friend's house for a party where everyone had to bring a dish. My boyfriend brought back some spring rolls. I was with my family. I went straight to him. I asked him if he made them. He said yes. I tasted them, and I immediately knew there were shrimp in them. I asked him, and he replied, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you." Luckily, my friend, who is allergic to peanuts, had an epinephrine pen and gave it to me, but it wasn't enough. My throat started to swell. The ambulance came, and I ended up in the hospital on an IV drip. When I came to, my best friend and parents were there. I asked where my boyfriend was. There was an awkward silence, and they told me he went out for a drink with some friends. He said we'd call him when you leave. It really pissed me off. My best friend even told me he seemed completely oblivious to the whole thing. When I got home, we had an argument about his behavior. In a fit of anger, I said, "Did you try to kill me or something?" And he replied, "Too bad it failed. At least you wouldn't be annoying me." I went to my room to cry, letting out my hatred from the evening. We haven't spoken for 2 days. The atmosphere is icy. Not even an apology. Nothing. I tell myself I'm going to leave him, that there's nothing left to save, but I have this doubt in the back of my mind. I talked to my mother, who told me that every relationship goes through problems. But now we're talking about a problem that sent me to the hospital, and I find it really strange. He never eats seafood, so why put it in the dish? Maybe I'm being paranoid? What do you think? Am I being dramatic, or is his behavior serious? Now for the top advice before reading the update. He literally told you he thought it was a shame you weren't dead, and you're wondering if you should leave him? And her mother who takes it lightly? I have the same mother. She makes me feel guilty because for her, a relationship is meant to last despite the trials. She cheated on my father several times. So when I have more or less serious problems, it's always, "It will pass." It happens to all couples. So there can be moments of tension at some point in all couples. But here, we're talking about a guy who's not a fan of basic seafood and who forgets to tell his girlfriend that there's some on his plate. The girlfriend with a deadly seafood allergy. OP is not paranoid. This looks like attempted murder disguised as an accident. So let me start by saying, I'm sorry this is happening to you, but I'll follow up with, what is this question? Even if it was an accident after 3 years together, it's serious. Without your friend, you might have died. Then what does he say to you after? Seriously, love yourself and dump him. Thank you for this response. In fact, with everything that has happened, in my head I tell myself that maybe it's me who is dramatizing, that I need to take a step back, etc. In short, I'm a little overwhelmed by the situation, but I'm going to leave him and that's it. No, but there's nothing to save here. And excuse me, but your mother is way off base too. It's impossible to minimize what he did and said to you, and his attitude when you were in the hospital. Now for the first update. Thanks to everyone for your answers. I'm at work right now, but I took the time to read, and you're confirming what I already knew deep down. Tomorrow I'm going to get my stuff while he's at work, and I'm going to go live with my sister while I find an apartment. And yes, my mother isn't a great role model. She has a very old-fashioned mentality and downplays these kinds of situations a lot. Thanks again for your advice and messages. It gave me the courage to make a real decision, even if it stresses me out. But hey, I'll go with my brother to get my stuff just in case. You never know. Second update. A quick update from this morning. I finished work at 8 a.m. and a friend came with me to pick up my things. Normally, my boyfriend was supposed to be at work, but unfortunately, he was there. He told me he was sick and asked what I was doing. I calmly told him I was coming to pick up my things and that it was over, that our relationship had to end. He just looked at me and asked my friend to leave so we could talk about how it was his place and we didn't want him there. I refused, reminding him that the apartment is also in my name. There are 2 of us on the lease, so if I wanted, he had no right to make him leave. For an hour, I emptied my things while listening to him call me every name under the sun, my friend and me. My friend repeatedly told him to speak respectfully, but hey, we were up against a wall. I grabbed everything and left. I'm going to get legal advice to clarify some things because, to answer those who asked, yes, he knew perfectly well that I was severely allergic. At every restaurant, I spent time reading the ingredients, asking questions, etc. For those who ask if it was in his character, no, he was always gentle and caring. So it's very hard to understand what could have happened. I guess human beings are complex, and I have to remind myself not to dwell on my situation. Yes, I say that to reassure myself. Thank you again to everyone for your messages and support. You did well to leave, and also to have someone accompany you and to have a witness to the insults, in addition to your friend who saw him give you these shrimp spring rolls. Courage for everything, block him everywhere and have no remorse about the steps for the apartment and everything. The sooner you cut all ties, the better it is for you. I'm replying here just to say that I'm relieved to read how this story ends. I was a little worried that the guy would be violent. You did well to be accompanied and not to let yourself be walked all over when he wanted to get rid of your friend. You made the right decision, OP, and good luck to you for the future. No, he's always been gentle and caring, so it's very hard to understand what could have happened. This part is even more creepy. I think a little investigation on him by the cops would be in order. The soft personalities but capable of this are the worst. This man is a future murderer, and if you hadn't had the necessary assistance the other day, he would have been a murderer. Premeditated. Take some time for yourself, but when you feel a little stronger, I strongly encourage you to go and file a complaint. And yes, get legal advice before all this. Be strong. I'm happy to know you're alive and away from him. Given your first post, indeed we could have had a doubt about the seriousness of the situation. Some people are sometimes completely immature about allergies and think that it's just an exaggeration, that it's not that serious in fact, or that it's just a show to avoid eating a particular food. So if your ex never saw you having an attack, he could have almost ignored it or minimized it. Stupid and immature, but oh well. But on the other hand, you end up in the hospital afterwards. Your family and your friend are there, and he goes off to drink with friends? And now he insults you when you leave instead of apologizing profusely? I don't know if he did it on purpose or not, but what is certain is that his reactions are stupid and immature at the very least. Next story. My partner was horrible whilst he was ill. My friends do not forgive him. What can I do? Been together 8 years this year, living together for 4. We're both 29. For the first 5 years of the relationship, everything was great. He was my dream man. 2 years into moving in, my partner started becoming more anxious and irritable. We attributed it to work stress, but it kept amping up. He stopped properly sleeping, became paranoid, and turned into a ball of rage. Mind you, before this, I'd never seen him angry. He'd always been quite a teddy bear. A lot of this was taken out on me. Never physically, but he became extremely suspicious of anything I said or did, and would find ways to twist my words into something insidious. His memory was also affected, not just with me, but with everything. Even his work performance dipped, and he stopped having energy to see friends. He would find something wrong every other day, and we would get into constant, huge arguments that could span days, because he just would not let up. This was absolutely horrible, and I felt so hurt and lost. I did not recognize this man anymore. The problem is that, in today's age of therapy speak, trying to convince someone that they might be irrational and that their feelings and recollections might not be valid gets met with accusations of gaslighting. So while I felt like I was being treated horribly, so did he. A part of me was worried that this was him dropping a mask, as can happen when people move in. But at the same time, we had just done COVID isolation together, where he was nothing but lovely. I decided to confide in my 2 best friends, who decided I was in a toxic situation and had to leave. So they told everyone I knew that I was being mistreated, without my consent, to try to force me to leave. I am extremely angry at them for doing this. as now there are rumors, and there's nothing a supposed victim can do to convince others she's not a victim. Both of them maintain they did the right thing. Early last year, I gave him an ultimatum that he needed to stop this or I was leaving. We even lived separately for a few weeks. We decided to try again with couples counseling, him restarting therapy and going on meds. It helped, and I appreciate the work he did, but he was still odd. He didn't take it out on me, but he was still very discontent. Then he started producing blood in places he shouldn't. The doctors found out he had an extremely aggressive localized cancer that had been ravaging his insides, probably for years. My partner went into emergency surgery and almost died, but they managed to get it out. It's been a year since then, and honestly, since surgery, he seems to have woken up as his old self. He mentioned he didn't realize it then, but he had so much brain fog, and rereading his journal he said he sounded crazy. He has been nothing but apologetic, and things have been great since. Except, of course, that everyone still hates him. Of course, me defending him does nothing as I've been painted as a victim. I tried to explain the health stuff, but people are adamant that illness doesn't impact you like that. Now, most of my friends are in their 20s and have never suffered actual health problems. So I feel like they don't get how severe this stuff can be. I feel at a loss because I'm torn between my partner and my social circle. I don't know what to do or say anymore because there is no way to convince people I'm not being mistreated. What's frustrating is many of them knew us before all this, but have concluded that our pretty perfect relationship must have been a ruse. They now say him being his usual self is also a ruse, and that he's using his illness to escape accountability, which is odd given how much he's taken accountability. How can I move forward? I think you have to give the situation time. Maybe as time goes on, and your partner's behavior remains kind and rational, people will believe in him again. Stop discussing your relationship with your friends. Let them know that any talk of your breaking up means the conversation is over, and end the conversation if they persist. Thanks, yeah, maybe I need to be patient. I don't bring up the relationship beyond when I spoke to my two friends, but I often get people who I didn't even know knew about the situation, coming up to me and giving me a bit of a welfare check. And of course, no matter what I say, it doesn't change their preconceptions. On one hand, I'm appreciative that people do genuinely care. I think I'm mainly angry at my best friends for driving all of this. I get that it came from a place of care, but I felt it was massively inappropriate to disclose my situation without consent, without even double-checking facts. I've heard rumors that he was physically aggressive against me, which is plainly not true and not something I've ever said. But of course, a victim would defend their partner, so I must be lying. Cancer and medical stuff can wreak havoc on your mind. I can't blame your friends for being suspicious of your partner. Not only is the phrase Chinese whispers hella problematic, but the behavior is too. These aren't your friends. If you're going to stay with your partner, have a response about him prepared, and be ready to find new friends or deal with it. I don't blame them for being suspicious, but I do think the way they went about it was very wrong. Last story, boyfriend withdrew his help for my surgery in 2 days. This morning, my boyfriend, 27 male, and I, 26 female, went to Starbucks and got into a small argument on the way home. He stated that I was being a bitch for a comment I made about my food and how it was prepared incorrectly. I can see how he interpreted it negatively, but I don't feel that I was acting irrationally. It was so small I don't even remember what was said. Context, he is very avoidant and is also going through weed withdrawals at this time. He does not typically handle stress well. Additional context, he brought our German Shepherd in the car with us this morning, and she was barking her head off in the car. I know this contributed to his stress. I am having surgery on Monday that requires him to drive me 1 hour to the surgery center and take care of me for that day. He got upset and said he doesn't want to put up with someone who acts like that or says bitchy things, and said he was breaking up with me. Going to look at apartments today. Our lease is up and we've been apartment searching together, and that he won't be taking me to my surgery or helping me in any way. After this, he started to bring up and reference other issues we've had in the past, unrelated, on the topic of cheating and dating when we had taken a break. I understand this still hurts him, and I'm willing to discuss these things with him, but they only surface in the middle of an argument. and it almost feels like an unintentional ploy to get the power back in his hands during an argument. He later stated he said this because my surgery is something I was asking him to do or help me with. I don't understand how this is relevant. I only have one family member who lives 5 hours away, and he knows I don't have family or help nearby. Is there any scenario where I may have deserved this? Or is this completely unacceptable like I feel it is? So he's deliberately picking a fight with you so that he can avoid taking care of you? Girl, dump his useless butt. Who is taking her for her surgery and who will care for her afterwards? The last thing she needs is stress while recuperating. There's no boyfriend. She's single and has been for a while. She just hasn't noticed it. This is a 7-year relationship, and he does this when she needs him most? The actions on his part show this relationship has run its course. This feels like there's either more at play than has been said, or the guy is just no longer in your corner. We have been together for 7 years. There is a lot in play in general. More the reason to have his full support in my opinion. This is not a year-long relationship. Don't sunk cost fallacy your way into staying in a bad relationship. Don't let a man treat you like that. My ex-boyfriend, who skipped 50% of his college courses, couldn't skip one with a month's notice to drive me to a surgery. So I had to ask my alcoholic mother to please be sober for a few hours to drive me. So I held the wheel while she shook from withdrawals and drove me to and from. No excuse. You deserve better, and he deserves to know that you're worth more than he thinks you are. Good luck to him without you, I hope. I'm sorry this happened to you. Thank you for your perspective. I'm also sorry you're going through something similar. Just remember that there is a light at the end of the tunnel if you keep going through it. But you have to keep progressing and not get stuck inside. It's dark in there.